Hey everyone, sorry about the delay. I was trying to get this layout together. That way it showed the book that we're discussing. So literally was Googling and trying everything. Sorry y'all, give me 1 second. Hey y'all, sorry about that. But today we're going to be talking about Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. Hello, cool gamer. How are you? Just having a live discussion regarding my book club pick for last month, and we decided to do it today because I know Jira is off work and everything. But yeah, let me put my dust jacket on here real quick. So for those that have read it, what were your thoughts? I would love to hear your thoughts before we get started with all spoilery stuff. For me, I gave it, as far as my rating, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't want to give it a complete 5 stars, so I feel like something else was missing in this book. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't a complete 5 star. And I didn't mind the pacing. I looked at reviews and stuff prior to picking this book, and a lot of people were saying it was very slow paced. Nothing was really happening. It was boring. It had similarities to other books, which the other books that were mentioned in the videos or the reviews, I didn't read those. So I was coming out reading this with a clean slate, fresh start. And this is a new author to me. So this is my first book that I'm reading by Hannah Kaner. Let me see, what else? As far as the world building, there wasn't a lot of world building that I would want, especially with this as being an adult fantasy. But I appreciate the character building. I'm glad at the beginning of the book we were able to know the circumstances of one of the main characters and the reason why she is the way she is. So I really enjoyed that part. So we are introduced in this book to Kissin. We're introduced to Elo. We're introduced to Sketty, Aaron, and we're also introduced to the most number one person, of course, Anara. Each of them all bring elements to the table when it comes to this particular story. Now, regarding my favorite character, who always like has a chip on their shoulder, I would have to say that it was Kissin, of course. Kissin was my absolute favorite character in this book. She's like, and I will say that all these characters have gone through a lot. Like Elo was a knight now and then became a baker, which I know that also threw people for a loop because they're like, okay, you were a knight, now you're a baker. So yeah, I didn't understand that concept, but I had no questions regarding that. But which I now understand why he became a baker, why he left that life as a knight, based on what had happened when he was on duty, and he was protecting Aaron, who is the king. And so this is pretty much dealing with a world of dealing with gods. And there are people that worship gods, sacrificed for them, and whatever. And that's where we first begin in this book with a sacrifice. We have Kissen and her family, and they worshipped Anan, which was the god of the sea or river, I believe. And they had it, that's how they named their kids or whatever. But next thing you know, Kissen's family and herself were poisoned, or I wouldn't say poisoned, drugged. And next thing you know, when they wake up, they are about to be burned to death. And her father, Kissen's father, was able to release her leg, which she lost her leg as she escaped, while she heard and watched her family die. And so now she has a chip on her shoulder where she just does not like gods. She doesn't like people that worship God. Like, she just doesn't like gods at all. And so she's considered the Godkiller because she kills gods for a living. Hold on. So she kills gods for a living. And then we also are introduced to, Elo, which we get more information regarding Aaron and how he became king in the first place. I'm sorry, what was I saying? I was saying regarding Elo, he was on duty with the king Aaron. Aaron became king due to loss. All his family was killed. And so he was the last person in line. So he became king. And so there was a war between humans and gods and gods. So Aaron had pretty much asked the gods to fight with him in order to destroy these other gods that are trying to kill everybody. And so that's what the gods did. They're like, okay, deal. But the next thing you know, Aaron portrays the gods that helped him during the war and kills them off. And Elo just didn't understand that concept, especially when the gods saved them, because if the gods weren't a part of the war, they would not be here. They would not be living. So there's that. Then we get introduced to Inara and Skedi. Skedi is a god of the god of lies, of white lies. That's how we're introduced to him. And he is in different forms. Like, you have the deer, but it's more like a rabbit looking type of creature. And Inara, which Inara, we know more about her in that she has noble blood. And she is the daughter of Lady Crayer. But the twist when it comes to Inara is that she is linked to a god, to the god I was just describing, the god of white lies. And that's not possible. Gods are mostly only linked to shrines. But we learn more and more information about Skedi, and about Skedi's past and how he became linked to Inara. But before that happens, before we get more into that, that's when her manor is burned down and her mother is dead. Her mother was killed. And then Inara becomes introduced to Kissen. And Kissen is still trying to figure out how come this god is linked to Inara. But for some reason, Kissen just took Inara in. And I think she did that because of how she was brought up. She was brought up in an orphanage. And she realized how she was all alone by herself. And she wasn't going to let Inara be by herself and try to figure things out on her own. So they're on this journey trying to figure out how to unlink Skedi and Inara. Because they're not supposed to be linked together at all. It's not heard of. It's not heard of. And they end up coming together with Elo on this journey. So literally throughout the entire book, we're going through this adventure with them, with all these characters, and we're getting to know each and one of them regarding their circumstances. And literally they link up together because like demons are attacking them unexpectedly. They don't know why they're attacking them. They don't know like what's conjuring them to come around them. So Elo, Kissen, Skedi, they all join together and they're on their way to this forbidden kingdom in order to figure out how to, like I said, unlink Skedi, and Inara. And so in order to do that, Kissen is going to head back over to her old orphanage with Mommy. And Mommy was telling her, like, oh, I can't do this. I don't have the power to do this, but I know of another god that can possibly help you or possibly able to give you more information regarding the circumstances of Inara and Skedi. So, like, okay. And then as they're doing their travels, like an adventure, they're getting to know one another. Kissen is trying to figure out if she should trust Elo. And Elo seems like he's hiding things. He's hiding certain things about him and certain things about his past. Like what's the end game? What's the end goal for him? Why is he joining them on this journey? Right? And we get to know more information about him as well. And out of nowhere, there's this point in the book where Skedi, the god, is starting to try to take control over Inara and her mind and trying to force her to leave Kissen, period. Just because Skedi does not like Kissen at all. He can't stand her. And he just tries to take over Inara's mind. But for somehow, she was able to overpower Skedi. And that's not heard of either, of a human overpowering a god, being able to break free from a god. That's just never heard of. So that's another mystery on top of them being linked together. And for a minute, Inara was like, you promised you would never use your power against me. And she just she couldn't forgive him after that. So their relationship wasn't as great as it was before. So now, as trust, is in the balance, Kissen's still trying to figure out what is Elo's deal. Like, what's his purpose? And I will say on this journey, they get a little close. I felt like there were certain scenes that was going to happen with them. Like, there was this one love scene with them, and I just knew it was going to happen. I'm like, it's an adventure, all that stuff. So tensions were high, so I knew that was going to happen. But like, I didn't expect the detail of everything taking place, and especially with her leg and how he was kissing her nub or whatever. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I wasn't expecting all the details of of what they were doing. So that happened, and then I'm sorry, had a brain fart. Sorry. So then after all that took place, Elo leaves them and disappears. And that's when Kissen brings Inara and Skedi with them to see what happens. But before they even get to that point, they get more information regarding how Inara and Skedi were linked. And it was based off of something, because Skedi's shrine was broken. And so the only link that Skedi had was Inara. But it was a promise that was made. And that was made from Inara's mother, which is now dead. So they're like at a crossroads. They don't know what to do at that point. Like, what was this promise? Why did her mom link a god to her in the first place, right? So going back to where pretty much Elo left Kissen right after they, did their deed, more information was taking place where Elo was trying to make a promise with another god in order to save Eren. Now, like I said, King Eren, he made promises or whatever to these other gods regarding them helping him with the war for them to win it. And then, he betrayed them, stabbed them in the back. Well, Eren had made a promise to them. And as he hasn't really kept his promise, the god that he had made that promise to is killing him slowly. So Elo thought, like, okay, maybe I can do something. So he's talking to another god in order to pretty much sacrifice himself, saying, you know what can I do in order to save Eren? And the god was like, a heart for a heart. So they pretty much was going to take Elo's heart in order to save Eren. But come to find out, it wasn't really Eren to begin with. It was Heseth, which is the god of fire. And that was the same god that killed Kissen's family, that made sure that the people sacrificed her family for Heseth. And Elo was confused. He's like, "What, Aaron? We're friends. You know, you're my king. I did this for you. I fought for you. I'm even trying to sacrifice for you, and this is how you're paying me." And Heseth was like, "Yeah." So I guess Aaron had made a promise to Heseth, and now Aaron is considered the sun bringer and is linked to Heseth. So with that's when the next book comes to play for the Sunbringer. Like, this is Godkiller, and then we have the Sunbringer, which I think it's a duology, I think. So we'll probably be reading that. We're going to be reading that next month. So in May, that's going to be our next book pick. But I will say there's still a mystery regarding the link between Inara and Skedi. And I will also say that towards the end of this book, like, Kissen was ready to like kill Heseth for what she had done what the god had done to her family, and how Heseth made people sacrifice her family. So she was out for blood. She was out for vengeance, and she did end up killing Heseth or whatever. But in this process, Inara, Elo, and Skedi thought that Kissen was dead based on the fall that she had made with Heseth as they were fighting each other, which was a fall that no one can survive. And that's how it ends. You have a king who now is more powerful than ever, has the will of the gods on his side, and that's literally how it ends. And so I really enjoyed the book. I think the pacing wasn't bad for me. I think there was certain aspects in the book that had some things missing. Like I said, I don't know what that was, but I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I didn't have a problem with any of it. I'm also trying to think of other things that I wanted to mention in the book that I had made notes for. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. I mentioned the shrine, that the shrine was pretty much destroyed, so that's why Skedi was linked to Inara. Let's see.
Tomorrow in Columbus.
Oops, sorry, y'all. But I think that is about it. I can't think of anything else regarding the book that I've missed. I like the little journey that they had. I wish their journey was a little longer, because this book is short. It's not even 300 pages, which I think another reason why I think a lot of people had problems with the pacing, because it's not even a 300-page book, and people thought it was slow. Like, it should have, like, the pacing could have been better. For me, it was perfect. I had no problem with it. I'm actually excited for Sunbringer. I want to see what happens with Elo. Like, now that King Aaron pretty much betrayed him, what is Elo going to face? Like, what's his next thing? Is he going to just go back to his baking, or is he going to do something about the Sunbringer? And I want to know what Kissen ends up doing. Like, is she going to just randomly reappear and saying I'm alive, or is she going to do something or be it something so powerful that she probably could, there would be a comparable match between the Sunbringer and herself. But who knows? It is a mystery. But I think that is it. I can't think of anything else for the Godkiller. I'm going to wait a couple minutes and see if anyone pops in. But that's about it. I like the journey that we had. I like that there is a map in the book where it gives us an idea of where they're traveling as well. And they weren't really that long distance, in my opinion. But I like maps in books. It gives me an idea of where they are. It helps me map out the world a little bit better. So I like that part as well. But that is about it. Oh, and I will say, towards the end of the book, it's I couldn't believe this. Kissin asked for help from a god. Yes, Kissin the Godkiller literally asked a god to help her and save her. I did not think that was going to happen because Kissin is very prideful. She really didn't want help from Elo, or nothing. She's been on her own. So she's been independent on her own. She doesn't depend on nobody. She doesn't want to depend on anyone. So for her to ask for help and to be saved, I'm like, okay, she's starting to soften her heart up a bit, which that's not bad. It's not bad at all. Um, but yeah, I think that's it. This discussion wasn't that long. Well, hence the book wasn't long either. Um, Let me know down below or like in the comments what you thought of the book. I know I had started the live discussion a little bit later. I was doing something as far as with the kids and everything. Um, but yeah, usually if a book was longer, we would at least have an hour of a live discussion. But this book is short. And I'm really looking forward to the next live discussion that we're going to be having. It's going to be happening the beginning of next month of May. And then we're going to be discussing the next following book, which is The Sunbringer, which is going to be in June. But that is it, everyone. I hope you have a great day. And I will catch y'all next time. Bye, everyone.